Welcome back to Next Level Rides. In today's episode, we're going to be doing video number 2, I guess you could call it, of basic modifications for an N54, or for somebody that's new to the platform that's looking to make a bit more power and to begin a build. We did get a lot of requests for us to build, compile, I guess you could say, a video like this for specific power stage levels. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 450, 600, and 750 plus to the motor. So just bear in mind that it's going to be a bit subjective. You're going to get a rough idea as to what will be required for each level. If you guys haven't watched our initial video on the must-have mods for an N54, we're going to leave it somewhere around here. I don't know. We'll get you guys a link. It'll be a good video to watch before this one. If not, it just helps out.
So first things first, before mods comes the absolute blessing and joy of maintenance and spending money and not getting any horsepower. A couple things I'd certainly do before you start modifying these is crank seal guard, make sure you're not leaking anything from the valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, oil filter housing gasket. I would do the Mickey Mouse flange. I mean, charge pipe at this point, I'd call it
I'd almost call it maintenance.
Yeah, I'd call charge pipe maintenance.
The second you get on them, especially if somebody hasn't been driving it too hard, I mean, a lot of these are still owned by the first owners who gingerly drove them. So if you get hard on the throttle, you could pop the plastic charge pipe. They literally just crumble away.
Catch can, PCV, I would certainly do those before you start modifying, and it kind of gives you the peace of mind. Like this car was just in Kelowna and just did a 1,000-kilometer trip, no issues. My wife daily drives this, no issues. And it all just came down to like maintenance being done first.
It'll be a bit subjective. Some people say you need a high and a low side catch can. I don't know. For the high side, it doesn't really catch too much, but along with the PCV, I'm sure what Taylor would also be referencing is the flapper inside of the high side, because they tend to leak, and there's a little pinhole, which essentially is a controlled vacuum leak that can gum up. So they're what, 15 bucks? 15 bucks.
They're cheap.
The hose is plastic. It likes to break. It likes to cause PCV issues. On the off chance that yours isn't gummed up and you just spray it out with some brake cleaner, WD-40 or whatever, just change a corrugated plastic tubing to I think it's a 5/8 silicone hose. You could connect it to the rear heater and be done with it. But PCV on the low side, in the least. A lot of you will probably know, or if you don't know, these like to carbon up really bad. So a low side PCV system, without a doubt, just to ensure that you're pulling a proper or the right amount of vacuum on the crankcase to keep your car, once you modify it, especially with downpipes, to keep it from smoking. These rely very, very heavily on the exact amount of vacuum needing to be pulled. So just ensure that you're made well aware and you don't get that surprise when you throw downpipes on and it's billowing clouds like a go-go gadget smoke screen.
And I would definitely make sure like spark plugs, coils, injectors are all in good working order.
L-doors, yeah.
High pressure fuel pumps in good working order. Like you want to start with something in a good working order, because as soon as you start modifying, you're just going to find the weak points.
Definitely, like the majority of them, you'll be able to see. There's what, 4 revisions of the high pressure fuel pump now?
I think so.
Yeah, you'll be able to see if you get an 07, depending. I mean, you might get lucky. You might have all index ones, which are arguably pretty good, and you might not need to do too much. But at the same time, you can look to see what revision high pressure pump you have. If you have a 3 or a 4, typically you're going to be pretty good for the first stage. I mean, once you start turning up the wick on the power, increasing the boost, you're going to be putting all of that stock stuff and pushing it to the limits. So you're going to start to see that maybe at some point the injectors start to protest, your high pressure pump starts to protest. You'll know right quick as soon as you turn it up that it doesn't want to do what it wants to do. Like Taylor was mentioning about the oil filter housing leaks, they can kind of spring up on you and they can kind of come out of the blue sometimes. What ends up happening essentially is it ends up leaking down the front of the engine. It can drip directly onto the serpentine belt. And as a result, what can happen is the serpentine belt can get saturated with the oil and it can actually slip off of one of the pulleys. So along with the oil filter housing gasket and the Mickey Mouse flange, which is again plastic and can crumble away, both can leak on the belt, resulting in you losing a belt. And the unfortunate part is Even though an N54 engine and the N54s, whether they're the revised whatever, IS, doesn't matter. They all have the inherent flaw that when the belt comes off, it wraps around the crank pulley, and if you're lucky, it just kind of slaps around and causes dust and everything, and you can pick it out. But for a lot of us, it ends up wrapping around the pulley, pushes its way past the front main seal, gets stuck in the timing chain, starts to plug up your oil pickup and causes a massive oil leak and nothing but a headache. So for the crank seal guards now, they're what, 40, 50 bucks on Amazon, Canadian pesos. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, part of the service, I would do a serpentine belt, check your idlers and whatnot. It's like 6 bolts kind of thing, E-Torx, to pull the harmonic balancer off, put the guard on, throw it back on. You're in there anyway, so you may as well do it.
On to the fun stuff. 450 horsepower to the crank. Definitely your basic bolt-on, so inlet, or I wouldn't even do inlets and outlets, but I would do intakes, catless downpipes, make sure the turbos are in good working order.
Yep.
Charge pipe, blow-off valve, or diverter valve, however you want to do it. 3.5 bar T-map sensor, and you could go one of two ways. You could either run a little bit of ethanol, or I would personally just do meth. Meth gives you a little bit more of a headroom, so when you get bored at 450, it gives you some room to grow and really maximize.
He's not doing meth. He's talking methanol injection.
Methyl hydrate.
Methyl hydrate mixed with deionized or distilled water. YouTube, we're not like that.
But 450 is a super basic. It's a lot of fun on these. And it's just, there's not much to it.
Full bolt-on, I guess you could call it. I mean, it's a little bit different than, like full bolt-on, they usually say IHE, so intake, header, exhaust kind of thing for naturally aspirated. Yeah, along with that.
An intercooler. Always just skip the 5-inch. Just go straight to the biggest one because you're going to get bored at 450. Then you're going to be selling it. You're going to be buying a bigger one anyways. Just start with the biggest one.
Yep. The factory diverter valves, they tend to leak above, I don't know, they say 16, 17 PSI. They're plastic, they're aged, the diaphragms leak. Just get rid of those. Get yourself either something with an HKS or a tile blow-off valve or the knockoff or something like I had on my E90 that used the factory diverter valves or factory style, but they were a billet aluminum variant. If it came down to specific brands, there's been a lot of research, and even though people disagree, the BMS or the VRSF, the dual cone intakes, tend to yield the biggest power gain. And what a lot of people need to realize is you're still going to get fresh air into the front of the vehicle or in through the headlight and the grills and everything else. It's going to pull in that air, and it's still going to go through your intercooler. So it's going to be cooling down that charged air pressure. So the temps are negligible. I've tested stock intake, dual cone intake, AFE, everything, and it's all relative. Get those for intercooler, no real preference. Downpipes, honestly, whatever fits the best. Downpipes on these, to get them lined up without the exhaust leaks can be a huge pain. I would probably say VRSF or CTS, they seem to fit the nicest. I'm sure there's other brands out there, ARM, they all seem to be pretty good. For methanol, in my opinion, and I think Taylor may agree, is JB4 with the JB4 meth kit. If you're doing methanol, it's foolproof, it integrates really nicely.
Lots of fail safes.
Lots of fail safes that have saved both our motors multiple times from no negligence of our own. It's just shit happens, and it's nice to essentially kick to map 4 as opposed to blowing your motor. It integrates really nice with the DME sub-connectors as opposed to interrupting the signal directly at the sensors, and pretty good. 3.5 bar map sensor is nice peace of mind just in case you tend to overboost just a hair. 18, 19 pounds, one spike, and I mean, it can trip it, but you're gonna need it down the road, so it's a good thing to integrate.
So once you're bored of 450, you've had it for a couple of weeks, you're not getting that kick anymore.
Turbo blue.
Turbo blue. Something along those lines, you know, we all get a little addicted to more power.
Wastegate rattle, yeah.
What you can do is you can go a couple other directions. Personally, I would go single turbo, but you can also do hybrids. A really well-sized single turbo will spool almost identical to hybrids. So it all comes down to the setup, what you want to do. There's a lot of good kits out there. SpeedTech's good. They just sound like absolute crap. Yeah,
SpeedTech spool quick. When people say, and this is the biggest thing, and this has caught me and bit me in the ass, is When people say they spool up like stock, that's crap. They may start spooling like stock, but you're going to have a noticeable amount of lag. When I had the F21Bs on my E90, it spooled similar to a single. 17Ts, a little bit of lag, but just take that with a grain of salt. A big single is, I mean, it's going to be serviceable.
Yep.
Way more serviceable. You have a higher ceiling for down the road. If you decide to go to the next step, you could swap a turbo, and it's not like changing two twins. It's just changing the one up top.
Yeah, it's a lot more easy. It also comes down to like cost and how you look at it. 17Ts are really cheap. A lot of people have good results with them, but same with going from 450 to 650. Like if you start getting bored, you're going in there, you're ripping them out, you're doing it again. Then your next step is a single turbo anyways, really. Then you might as well have just bought the single turbo kit. So that's why, like, I went that route, he went that route. We both had upgraded twins. We both went to single turbo, and moving forward, like every other one we build, it just goes immediately single turbo.
Well, I mean, even like to add to what Taylor just said, we both went upgraded singles, and eventually I think one of yours shit the bed.
Upgraded twins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upgraded twins. So one of Taylor's ended up getting turbo siren and started to fail. But along with that, one of the inlets was actually starting to collapse above like 18 PSI, causing a really large delay. And for me, mine, I ended up having to pull the rear turbo off 4 times because of an exhaust leak that was right at the cartridge. It was between the cartridge and the rear wheel. Turbo company will stay unnamed that basically flipped me the bird and said, you're on your own after spending, what, $3,400 on a set of turbos. There was no customer service after the fact. All things to kind of keep into, to take into account, especially along with the turbos, you're going to need to do inlets. You're going to need, if you haven't, the T-map sensor, you'll probably need outlets. You'll need, it starts to add up pretty quick. And then at one point between upgraded hybrid twins and a single, the gap in, the monetary amount is smaller and smaller.
Yeah, like looking back at logs from my upgraded twins to the single setup now, I actually spool better on a single. I'll hit 20 pounds of boost, like 300 RPM quicker.
Yeah, which is weird. His spool's really good. But it shows that you get a properly sized turbo and it'll work really well. I mean, you could even go with a smaller one if you wanted.
100%.
Like say you wanted 550 wheel and you went with like a, 5860 or something, or 6062?
Yeah, something around there.
Something. And then it's going to spool up really quick, similar to twins, and it's way more serviceable. I mean, you need to move the power steering and the coolant reservoir and stuff like that, but have you done twins? Would you want to do twins? Hell no.
The other nice thing is, I mean, going from stage 1 to stage 2, you already have everything else that's really needed for a single turbo setup, other than what comes in the kit. You already have the big intercooler, you have the charge pipe, you don't need to worry about inlets and outlets. It simplifies it so much. I mean, you're removing one turbo, so you're removing a turbo feed, a turbo drain, coolant lines.
Potential leaks,
serviceability, 20 minutes to rip a turbo off up top.
And you can convert it to single bank fueling, which tends to idle and drive quite a bit better because now you don't have front and rear trims. You can leave it, but now you convert to a single bank and it just simplifies the setup. And with a MAC valve, you're going from what BMW would have with a vacuum operated turbo wastegate to a conventional setup, which is much more reliable. It'll help spool, peace of mind.
Yeah. The only other negatives I can think of it is you have to be way better in your heat management. For the downpipe,
melt a valve cover, Zach.
You really want to make sure you protect your wastegate lines. You have to think about heat management a little bit more. That's about it.
Hey, tell them about the whole remember that JB4 safety thing and vacuum lines?
Yeah, I melted a wastegate line. Hence why everything's AN now, but I melted a wastegate line and the car wanted to do 40 pounds of boost and light up all 4 going down the highway, so.
It was good.
Thanks, JB4.
Yep, 37, 38 pounds, and you could see when the JB4 shut the throttle, so even though it was making that boost, the motor wasn't seeing it. Probably the only thing that actually kept the motor together, I would say, yeah.
It was a fun trip, though. Let me tell you.
It was great, blowing tires off at 120, 130 kilometers an hour in Guadalajara, Jalisco, when they had that random snow and cold snap. Just thinking that transmission was slipping.
It was good fun. The only other thing I would do going up to that power level is then I'd start looking into fueling. So either go to port or go to meth, stick with meth, or start looking at doing a stage 2 or stage 3 low pressure fuel pump. Again, it To me, it's while you're in there, like why would you do a stage 2? You're already in there. Throw a stage 3 in. Don't touch it again.
Stage 3 is what?
Dual pump.
Yeah.
You're already in there. You're already gonna spend $500 on a stage 2. Just spend $700 on a stage 3 or whatever it equates to in US dollars. I don't know.
One thing to add is for my 1 series, I started to run into fueling issues even with a 450. It started to, what was it, cavitate the high pressure fuel pump. As soon as I started to turn it up, it started to lose the high pressure pump. Just simply, it wasn't keeping up to the fueling demands. I don't think port's anything crazy nowadays. It's pretty straightforward. Like you could get a used port manifold. Or...
Yeah, like 600 to the crank, wouldn't worry about it. Going like 750 to the crank, then I would start going into like there's a way longer laundry list when you start going there. But 600, I would just dual pump.
Yeah, true. Dual pump should be fine. And if you had that methanol kit from before, it's going to be perfect. You'll cool the intake temps. It'll support your direct injection setup. Some people don't want to go port. Some people don't want to complicate things. They just want to stay with the direct injection one.
Some people don't have access to E.
Yeah, some people don't have access to E. Methyl hydrate is in any hardware store. It's like $13 for a gallon. You just mix it with distilled water and you have 50-50, or you could play with the concentrations and do a meth nozzle setup, which is pretty easy. It's cheap in the grand scheme of things. You could, I guess, if you need a little bit more headroom, you could drill your factory fuel injector rail. There's been some debate whether it increases the sealing an extra few hundred PSI. I don't know. While you're in there, you could if you really want and sacrifice some drill bits, but that's roughly what we would probably recommend for that 600 to the motor mark, which is probably what, about 500 wheel?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
It depends where you are. But it's hard for us because we're so high up.
Yeah, as soon as we tick over 5, we start to have some fueling issues, depending. I mean, we're at, what, 3,800 feet above sea level? Between 550 wheel, we start to see some issues. But again, it could be down to the health of the high pressure pump and everything else.
This is the E92. This is the one that gets tested with everything and goes through 35 different revisions. It's kind of like the test mule. Works good. Good vehicle. This is probably somewhere around 750 crank. I've never dynoed it. I'm not a person that's going to state it makes X amount. I have no clue. It runs full ethanol, 28, 30 pounds of boost. Take that as you will in a 6466.
Type it into Google, do the math, boy math, whatever. You'll figure out what it would roughly make.
I'm not giving you a number, but take it for what it is. You can figure out what it makes in your brain.
Yeah, somewhere at the max limits of the engine, but somewhere just under from scattering a rod or a piston.
We'll say 750 plus. Who knows where it's at?
This one would also apply, and I guess the reason for the plus is in the event that you had a built motor where you did rods and pistons, the majority of these modifications would also apply, plus 750. So if you wanted to aim for 850, 900, a lot of these would apply.
Yeah, this, like, the fueling system and fueling setup and everything like that this could easily do
probably
a lot higher than it is.
Yeah.
Again, I just like keeping the motor together.
Yeah, maybe if you want to even start with the fueling system, because that's a little bit over my head. We're going to get to that on mine eventually.
So, my recommendation at this, 100% port, and you need to make sure you're running a manifold. Don't run a plate. Run a manifold that atomizes properly. Make sure you size your injectors correctly. Is it necessary? No, but what I've figured out from taking my fuel system apart 35 times and what I recommend, external fuel pressure regulator. I use it mounted to the rail. I would switch from your deadhead system to a return style. Few things I would do with that. Upgraded EKP, absolutely necessary. External regulator so you can run a proper return and proper 1-to-1 boost reference. Hob switch for your secondary pump or whatever else you want to use for your secondary activation. That should really give you the sky's the limits. I mean, at 26 pounds of boost with the external regulator, I have 85 psi, 90 psi of low pressure fuel pressure.
Yep, not sure if you mentioned, but what size was the feed and return? -6?
Oh yeah, and -6 all the way back and all the way up or bigger. The stock line is, I think we had one laying around, maybe not.
It's like 3/8.
It's
tiny.
It's unbelievably small. With that external filter, And I would run the
10 micron.
10 micron. I would run the Engineer Everything billet top hat. Guy does beautiful work. It's a beautiful piece. It's beautiful priced.
You want to put it in a glass cabinet. Like it's that nice.
Very, very nice. And he is a very calculated guy, down to like properly setting up a Venturi, properly setting up the siphon, properly setting up like sizing for the lines and where the fittings need to go so everything works correctly. Fitment actually fit better than putting a stock one back in. It was a very, very nice piece. That's what I would do for fueling. Once you get to that point, size your turbo accordingly. You're going to need a single turbo probably, unless you really, really want to stick to twins. There's twins that can do it. All power to you.
I mean, you could, the only issue with twins is, I guess, the torque would probably come on a little bit sooner than a single kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then you're running, that's a lot more stress on your transmission, and that's a lot more stress on your engine. So a single will allow you to make a little bit more, I guess, depending on manual or automatic.
Exactly.
But
people can do it. I'm not arguing that fact. If you want to go that route, go that route. Personally, I like going a single turbo. It's a lot easier to maintain. It's easier to manage. If I need more power, I just throw a turbo on. It takes 20 minutes sitting up here. I'm not under the car, on my back, busting my ass. The other thing you're going to need to do, if you're manual, you're going to need an upgraded clutch. If you're auto, you need to, like, my recommendation is go a different route. Of course, I'm biased and I say 8 HP. I've beaten this thing up for 4 years. It's probably got about 70,000 kilometers on it of straight abuse, and it's fine on an 8 HP 45. People can argue with me. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you know how to set it up properly.
It's been great. It's been abused, and it just hangs in there. But you're gonna need to do something else. If you're auto, you can go 6 HP 28, you can go built trans, you can go 8 HP, you can go 8 HP 70, you can go DCT upgraded clutches. There's lots of different options. If you're manual, you're gonna need upgraded clutches. And other than that, I don't know what else. I mean, at that point, you're kind of where the sky's the ceiling. Your limiting factors can start becoming the turbo.
Yeah, and the tune.
And the tune, yeah. Custom tune it's necessary. Like for drivability, for comfort, for reliability, custom tune is just the way to go. Doc Vu is who's been doing all of ours. Love it. Super, super quick to reply. Super dialed in. Guy's got OCD and likes everything absolutely perfect, which is perfect for us. There is a lot of other good tuners out there, but that's who I've had for 6 years that I've had this car now, and
it's been a while.
It's been fine.
It works perfect. Like, what I've been pretty impressed with is how much he wants to fine tune, like the specific little parameters.
Oh yeah.
To make sure it is perfect. And as a result, it's a seamless, consistent tune. You don't have timing corrections like you may on like an off-the-shelf map or another tuner. Not that we've experienced that, but yeah, the attention to detail is definitely up there.
There's a lot of good tuners, but that's my recommendation. That's just, again, because I've had first-hand experience with it and personally love it. All in all, is there better motors? Absolutely. Is there motors that I could blow up and it's going to cost me $2,500 to swap it and it's going to do 600, 700, 800 horsepower? No. Great motor. Take care of them. They're reliable. This thing has been daily driven. It just went out to Kelowna. Like, it just did a 1,400 kilometer road trip.
Didn't skip a beat.
Perfectly fine. It gets beat to living crap. It's never driven nicely. I don't see another motor that you're going to find that can do that. I mean, B58, again, amazing motor, but to replace a B58, 8 to 10 grand.
It's a fortune. I mean, you could do it with an LS and
yep.
Yeah, okay, fine. 2JZs are not cheap anymore. Some people will argue you can do an NA 2J turbo, whatever build. Sure, okay, fine. But at the end of the day, a factory turbo vehicle that's forged internals capable of 700 wheel. Show me another one where you could get something like that for $2,500 for a dress long block that's going to be plenty capable and do everything that this is able to do.
Everybody that has issues with it and hates them, just maintain your shit.
Yeah, don't be dumb. Dumb people wreck cars. Like with rotaries, I started with an ARC-7. Dumb people wrecked those cars. Dumb people blew those motors. Treat your car well, and it's going to treat you well. It's a BMW. It's high maintenance,
But at the same time, there's what, 4 or 5 of these running around now, fully done up, that get beat to crap every weekend?
They're fine.
Locally here?
Yeah, they're fine. JD's, he's selling his now. Every month messages us and says, I'm so happy with the car. It gets used, abused, beaten on, and it's been perfect. That's what happens when you do maintenance to it. And at the end of the day, if you break something, as long as you're not relying on a shop or, you know, whomever, the parts are relatively available and inexpensive. I mean, we could probably change a high pressure pump now in 40 minutes. The more you learn about them, the easier it becomes, and it's a good motor. It's not an N55. If you try to do this with an N55, it'll shit the bed on you. If you guys have any other questions or if you have any other comments, feel free to leave it down in the comment section. I try to reach out and reply to each one of the comments. So if there's something you want us to cover, let us know. We love the platform. It's an inline six turbo at the end of the day. How could you not like it? But that's all for now. As always, feel free to like and subscribe, and see you guys on the next one.
Bye. Have a great and splendid time.
Welcome back to Waka.
Yeah, did you see the videos of Zach
Hold on,
when he took my car?
Ooh, that hot.